Welcome all to the second episode of the Elite Era podcast. And today it is Elimination Chamber Sunday. We're going to be reviewing the entire show from top to bottom. WWE Elimination Chamber 2019. And what a good pay-per-view it was. One hell of a main event. We'll get to it later, but in my opinion, I think that is probably the best Elimination Chamber of all time, if not in the top three or so. If it's not the best, it's got to be top three or so. It was fantastic, especially the ending sequence, and it was a pretty notable night too. We had a few title changes. We had, as you can see on the screen, we had brand new champions crowned for the new women's title, tag team titles, which before we get to that match, that was the opening match of the show. Before we get to that, Buddy Murphy defeated Kyrgyzstan on the kickoff show, which, of course, he did. Buddy Murphy's he's just tearing through people on 205 Live right now. They of course had a decent match, as they always do. The cruiserweights on these kickoff shows, on these pay-per-views, they always have fantastic matches. And Buddy Murphy, once again retaining his title, probably not gonna lose it until WrestleMania. Maybe his opponent could be Tony Nese or something like that. They have this little feud going on between them. So I could see that happening in Mania and him losing it there. But he'll probably have another match at Fastlane in the kickoff show or something. In the meantime, but I don't expect him to lose it anytime soon. But anyway, kicking off the main show, which watching this show compared to the last show I reviewed, which was the Royal Rumble, this went so much faster, and it didn't last long at all. I think the kickoff started at 3 p.m., ended around 7, 15-ish p.m. So, from the main show, which started at 4, it was like a 3 to 4 hour show, and it was, it's a decent length for one of these pay-per-views. It's B-level pay-per-views. It's not one of the big five of Rumble, Mania, Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. It's not one of those, so it doesn't need to be as long. It doesn't need to go that long, which is great. It's so much enjoyable to watch these shows when they're shorter. So anyways, the first match, we had the women's tag team title elimination chamber match. This match, I think was supposed to headline this event, which makes sense. It was the crowning of the new champions. But I guess they had some last-minute decisions and changed their mind, which I'm glad they did, because not only is it nice to finally have the WWE champion main event the show. I think someone reported it hasn't main evented a pay-per-view since Fastlane of 2018, which is about a year ago. So it was nice to see the title, the main WWE title, main event of a show for once. And plus, that match was just overall way better. This match, though, not a bad match at all. It was a bit sloppy in places because of the talent that's involved. They're not obviously the most crisp wrestlers, but it was fun. It was an entertaining match. Of course, Sasha and Bayley and Sonya and Mandy were the two teams to start the match, as they lost those matches that they had on Raw and SmackDown, and they were the two teams that are going to open up. They had a pretty, decent back and forth. They're just going at it until Riot Squad comes out. Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan, they came out. They just start laying out the teams. They start. It's funny. They take it to Sasha and Bayley. They have them on the outside. Liv or Sarah, I can't remember which one it was, grabs Sasha's arm, slams it against the chamber post, which is a pretty good spot. Sasha sold that pretty well. And then they're back in the ring, and they're facing off with Sonya and Mandy, which, Sonya and Mandy and the Riot Squad, they debuted the same week. Their paths have been very similar. I think, was it late 2017 or early 2018? They came in at the same time, in preparation, of course, for the Women's Rumble, when they wanted to get more women on the roster. They came in at the same time, so it was pretty interesting seeing them square off here. Two teams that have been very similar, and they had very similar rises on the main roster, but nonetheless, they squared off. They had a little bit of a tussle around. They had this one sequence which is pretty awkward, honestly. They were so after hitting each other a little bit, all four ladies were on the ground, and they were just kicking at each other and giving it to each other. But they were all doing this in a sitting position, which was pretty weird. not it went on for like 15 seconds. It's just a little bit awkward seeing them all just sit down and hit each other and not just get up or something. And then we had Bailey come back into the match. She's going after everyone. We had a Tower of Doom spot, of course, which was set up for everyone to be laid out, for the Iconics to come in, and well, the Iconics did one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. The Iconics come in and they pin everybody. They literally pin everybody, but they break their own pins at like one. Peyton would go on to like say Liv Morgan, and the ref would start counting. And the ref would like hit one, and then she'd get off and go to someone else. I guess it was a pretty funny spot. It was pretty dumb though. I don't know what the Iconics were hoping to achieve with that. But anyways, the Iconics, they also started working on Bailey and Sasha, because currently we had three heel teams in the match and then Bailey and Sasha, so they were getting worked over and getting beaten a lot. And we had a pretty funny spot where the Iconics were working over Bailey and Sasha, which were on the side, and Bailey, bless Bailey, she was trying her hardest to make it look really gruesome. She had her face pressed against the grate on the outside, on the fence thing, the outside of the walls of the chamber. She had her face pressed against it. It looked pretty brutal, but Sasha just looked like she was leaning, like her head just leaning on it, taking a quick nap, while the Iconic was it was either Peyton or Billy was just yelling at her, trying to act all tough and stuff. It was a pretty sloppy spot. It takes away a little bit of the gruesomeness of the chamber, of how brutal it could be and have such a weak looking spot like that. But nonetheless, after that we had Naomi and Carmella come in, so we had finally another face team. They come in, they start taking it to everyone, taking it to the heels. They had this pretty fun sequence where pretty much everybody would hit like a signature move on each other. They would just knock each other down one after another. You had like Bailey would take out Sarah Logan, and then Liv would take out Bailey, and then Sonya would take out Liv, and then we had the Carmella take out Sonya. It was like just every woman coming in and hitting their spots for everyone to be on the ground and lay down. And then of course, after everyone's knocked out, the two women that get up are Naomi and Mandy Rose. Their whole feud they've had on SmackDown, that whole Jimmy thing, or Jay, whichever one she was married to, that whole thing. So they square off. They start fight. They fight each other. Iconics get up. Iconics come in. They knock away Mandy, and then Peyton gets, or Billy gets Naomi in a pinning position. She goes for the pin, and then Peyton runs off the ropes, and she also does like a jackknife cover pin on a Naomi, while Billy's also pinning. It was honestly a really cool spot. It was a really cool pinning combination. So the two of them pin Naomi together, and then that's Naomi and Carmella eliminated from the match. The first team gone. So they get eliminated, and then Iconics are in the middle of the ring. They're surrounded by every other team, which has gotten up by now, and they're about to all gang up on them, on the Iconics, until the countdown timer starts. So it's like going like 8, 7, and the Iconics are like, no, don't attack us. These big monsters, Nia and Tamina, are gonna come out next. Let's go after them. So that's what happens. All the women, they stand together. Nia and Tamina come out. All the women gang up on them, but of course Nia and Tamina, which are the freshest people in the match, come in, just start killing everybody, throwing people around. The Iconics try to go into a pod, and they close the doors and try to hide in there to be safe. And then of course Nia and Tamina have them trapped like animals. They start prying open the door. They open it. They have the two of them stuck in there. They grab them, and they do like that Hulk and Loki spot. Basically, Nia has one of the Iconics, and Tamina has the other ones. They just grab them, and they start flinging them from side to side up against the chamber walls. Honestly, a pretty good spot. They just kill those two. They start throwing them around, throw them in the ring, and then they hit double Samoan drops on each of them and to take them out. So there goes the Iconics, two teams from SmackDown, because of course SmackDown has to lose everything. So the Iconics are eliminated. So we just have Sasha, Bailey, Riot Squad, Nia, Tamina, and the Mandy and Sonya in the match. Is where Sasha and Bailey start having like their comeback spot, I guess. They get in on Nia and Tamina. They hit Thesz presses on them. Sasha with that pretty awful Thesz press, honestly. So they start giving it to them, and the Riot Squad, Liv and Sarah, for some reason they go up to the top of the pod, I think, to run away from Nia and Tamina, and so they try to go up there to try to get them, and then they're stopped by Sonya and Mandy, and they're all just, of course, hitting each other on the outside, setting up the spot for Liv and Sarah to both hit dives off the top of the pod, which is it was a pretty cool spot. They hit flying crossbodies onto the masses of people. They take down everyone, and then going back up to the top of the pod, or up to the turnbuckle, Nia catches one of the Riot Squad members. She grabs her on the turnbuckle, and she hits the second rope Samoan drop, the move that she used to pin Alexa Bliss at Mania. I think it was last year. Last year, the move she used to win the championship. She hits that on one of them, pins them, and there goes the Riot Squad. Actually, Tamina's the one that pins one of the Riot Squads, because she hits the top rope splash. She hits Snicker splash on the other one and takes out that Riot Squad member, and so they're gone. So, sorry for that. So, they just have more exchanges. Nia, at one point, she's charging, I think, Bayley. Bayley was up against the pod. She charges at her. Bayley sidesteps. Of course, Nia goes through the pod. She crashes through it, which was the way of her protecting her by taking her out of the match and having Tamina pinned, which was exactly what happened. Tamina gets pinned by Bayley and Sasha, I believe it was. She gets pinned, so there goes Tamina and Nia. Pretty interesting, because I saw a lot of people speculate that they were going to win. I didn't think they were going to win. I think Bayley and Sasha were the obvious winners here, because it's the first ever women's tag team championships, well, in the modern era at least, and they always want to have like feel good moments with the first ever champions. So I always expected them to win, but it was interesting seeing them get eliminated and having Sonya and Mandy last to the end, which was cool because those were the two teams that started the match. So those two lasted to the end. We have this pretty cool sequence too. Sonya goes for Banks hits Sonya with the move. Sonya pops up, and seamless transition. Bayley catches her perfectly and hits a belly to belly. You just had to see the spot. It was like such a perfect transition, the way she just popped up off the ground. Bayley caught her perfectly and just hit that move. She goes for the pin. Near fall broken up by Mandy, of course. And they go up top. They go on top of the pod. They start blowing up there a little bit. They make their way down. And then, so the story of the match, of course, Banks, who has been injured, she's had her shoulder injury for a while now. So she's working on Sonya, going for the Banks statement, and she can't get it in because of her injured shoulder, so she can't hook that arm. Sonya's fighting her off. So what Banks does instead, she grabs her leg and she wraps it around Sonya's head and grabs her leg with her other arm, her good shoulder, and she uses that version of the Banks statement, and she taps out Sonya, which makes Bayley and Sasha the Boston Hug Connection. That's what they call themselves. Pretty awful name. That makes them the first ever women's tag team champions, which is, it's cool. Nice feel good moment. They had a little speech at the end after that. One of the interviewees came in and congratulated them and all that. It was a touching moment. From here, honestly not sure what direction they go for WrestleMania. I expect Nia and Tamina to be challengers, but we have that we have Fastlane coming up, so I assume that's what they're gonna do there. And for Mania, I could see it being a draw, like a big marquee match with Lita and Trish. Lita and Trish recently, they were on the WWE Evolution pay-per-view. They had a tag match there. I could see them coming back for this, or unfortunately, they could bring in back the Bellas again and have them, because the Bellas, they are like the women's tag team in WWE. I think they're unfortunately, as not good as they are like the most iconic women's tag team, or women's partnership. since they didn't have a tag division back then. So I guess it'd be cool seeing them come back and compete for the titles at least once. And you can do it at Mania. It's a big, they're big names, of course, with their Total Bella show. So that could be something cool they can do. Next match we had was the best team in the world, with Shane and Miz defending their SmackDown Tag Team Championships against the Usos. So Miz comes out. He starts cutting a promo, face Miz, congratulating Sasha and Bayley, rallying up the crowd, having a good, having this nice fun time, a good feel-good moment. And then he brings out Maurice, who we haven't seen on WWE TV for a while. November maybe, with that thing they did with Brie and Daniel. Yeah, Hell in a Cell, I think that was the mixed tag match. But we haven't seen her since then. So she comes out and they announce they're having another baby. Good for Miz. Miz is Miz has become such a likable character. Especially for me, being a younger wrestling fan. I'm only 17, so when I was a kid, I was watching WWE 9 years ago, which was 2010, which was when the Miz was coming into his own. He was Money in the Bank winner, and he won the title off Randy on Raw. And I remember seeing all that, so it's cool seeing how the Miz has grown into, he was such a hated. He had Xbox heat, go away heat. No one wanted him, and then he just grew into such a good heel, and everyone loves him. And then it's nice seeing him. I know they did a face turn before, but that didn't really work because we didn't love him as much as we did as a heel. But now everyone just appreciates the Miz so much that him being a face works now, because we all just like to love him anyways. So anyway, he cut that little promo, and then we had Usos come out and everything. Usos, who were heels, I think, on Make Miz TV on SmackDown. I think they were supposed to be the heels. They come out, and both teams are very over. We having Uso chants. Shane and Miz are obviously very over with their storyline, because there's so cool. And I wonder, going on at the end of this match, we're going to theorize of what is next for them, because the match is pretty basic match. They had a similar match to Sheamus and Cesaro at the bar they had at the Rumble, with Miz getting worked over, and then Shane coming in with the hot tag. We had a pretty cool spot where Shane went for the coast to coast, and one of the Usos just super kicked him out of midair. It was pretty cool. We had the Usos hit the splash on Shane right after that, and then Miz breaks it up. That was a pretty cool near fall. Shane puts one of them through the table. He actually hits the flying elbow drop. He goes to the table, and while him and that Uso are on the outside, we have Miz and I think it was Jimmy on the inside. They're the last two that are going at it. Jimmy hits a splash. He goes for the splash. Miz gets his knees up. He hits the skull crushing finale, and at this point I was like, okay, that's it, because I fully expected Miz and Shane to win here. Of course, they've only had it for a few weeks, not even a month, 3 weeks or so. So he gets up the knees, hits that skull crushing finale. He goes for the pin. 1, 2. Jimmy reverses the pin into his own pinning combination, and he pins Miz for the 3. And he gets the 3 count, and the Usos are now the SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions. And Miz and Shane, they had a little moment after where Miz was apologizing to Shane. He says, I'm sorry. And then later on in the night, we had this backstage thing with Miz and Shane, and Miz was just getting so frustrated with himself. He was so upset with himself. Shane telling him it's okay. So it's a little bit weird because, I think we all expect Miz to be the one that turns on Shane. And I guess that could have been set up here in that other backstage segment. But in the match, it was more set up for Shane to turn on Miz, because Miz is the one that cost him the match. Shane did his part. He took out one of the Usos. It was left up for Miz to take out the other guy, and Miz failed him. So, it's pretty interesting how they could go with this. And for the Usos, if Shane and Miz don't split up, I could see that being the Mania match again. Maybe throw another team in there, Bar or something. Throw them in there, and that can be the Mania match. Or if Miz and Shane do break up, which I think they will, and they have their one-on-one match, I guess Usos are kind of left out in this. I could see them being relegated to the kickoff show. I don't think they'll have a high profile match if they aren't involved with Shane and Miz, which is a pretty darn shame. Usos. They've been talking about how they wanted to be in the big WrestleMania tag match, which they got last year. Was unfortunately in that like borderline squash match with the Bludgeon Brothers, which sucked. It'd be nice to see them get a proper match. And anyways, so that was our first title change of the night, which we had two, because the next one we had the IC Championship match between Leo and Bobby, because it was a handicap match between Leo Bobby versus Finn Balor. Backstage, we had one of the interviewees interviewing them, asking, why would you have Leo in the match? What if Finn pins Leo? Finn beat Leo a few weeks ago on Raw. Why would he be in the match? And, Leo's like, I got this. So they have a match, pretty decent, average match, nothing special. Until we get to the ending where Bobby's setting up for the spear. He's about to take out Finn. Leo tags himself in. Of course, he wants the glory. He goes up to the top. He goes for a frog splash. He misses. Excuse me for that. And he misses, and he's on the other side of the ring, cut off from Bobby. And Finn, he gets this big grin on his face. He's like, I've got you now. So Leo tries going back to Bobby to go for the tag. Finn keeps cutting him off, cuts him off. Lashley comes in to try to save him. Finn takes him out. He takes them both out. On the outside, he hits a dive on them, throws Leo back in. He hits the drop kick into the corner. He hits the coup de grace, and he pins Leo to win the title. Which means, since Finn didn't pin Bobby, I fully expect a rematch soon. Maybe Fastlane. I'm not sure. I guess they could do that for the Fastlane, and maybe if they wanted to, they could push it for WrestleMania. I'm not sure where the IC title fits in WrestleMania either. They could do maybe Drew McIntyre. He's involved with Bobby Lashley, as you can see later in the night. Maybe they do that. Maybe they can involve Braun on that, and Baron. I don't know, but maybe that could be the ladder match. At Mania they like having multi-man ladder matches. Maybe that could be this year, so it'd be pretty fun. But anyways, Finn Balor picks up his first IC title on the main roster. Pretty cool moment. I didn't really see him winning this. I was actually pretty surprised. But, cool moment for Finn. It's nice to see him get nice things. Funny. A lot of people are making jokes online because the Usos won, and how they've been reportedly have been asking for the release or something, they've been in talks with AEW. They're interested on going over there, but I don't see why. Why would they want to go to AEW? They have the nice thing going on there in WWE. I think they still have a lot left in the tank. They can go a whole lot more. Anyways, next we have Braun versus Baron in the no DQ match. Braun and Baron, the most boring feud of 2018, on Raw. They've been killing Raw, or 2019, sorry. They had a little bit of a feud in 2018 too, so we might as well call it there. But, they've been killing Raw. I don't know why they're positioning this as the main event. Obviously, it's because Brock isn't around, and you can't just have Seth carrying it by himself. So, unfortunately, this whole storyline between Braun and Baron is what's been main eventing Raw. It's just awful. This match didn't really need to exist. It was more of an angle than a match. So Drew and Bobby Lashley come out, and they come out with chairs, and just the three of them beat down Braun with a chair. They start beating him down. They beat him down. They set up 2 steel stairs, and they set up 2 tables. They stack them, and they get up on the stairs, and they hit the Shield triple power bomb and put Braun through the table. Through both tables, and just lay him out and stand tall. For some reason, I don't know where they're going with this. They're not fighting over anything. Baron isn't GM anymore. I just really want this feud to be over. I don't know what they're doing. Braun has been, all his momentum's been taken away. He's not I don't see him as the same way we used to see him like a year ago. A year ago, I wanted him to be Universal Champion. I saw it, I was hoping like he would win it soon. And, all that momentum's just been derailed, Now I'm at the point where and you can see it in the crowd too. Braun, when he comes out, he doesn't get as huge of a pop as he does anymore. And it's just I guess it sucks for Braun. Him having to be sidelined. He's like the Big Show. How Big Show was just there. He was a big man there. He was never the main guy. He was just like the side guy to put a title on for something, or to turn heel like 1,000 times. And he was just there because he was big. He was the Big Show. He was a name. He was a name. He was a name for people to beat, and he was just a body on the roster that they used in that way, which is a shame for Braun to become that. But that's just what it is, and that's what it's gonna be. And so up next we had the main event, the men's Elimination Chamber. What I am going to say is the best Elimination Chamber of all time. I really like this match. One of the other Elimination Chambers I think are great. The first one, the 2002 Survivor Series one, that one's fantastic. That's a really good chamber match. The 2017 one where Bray wins, that was also an awesome match. This match, because of what happens like those last 10 minutes, those were all just that was pro wrestling at its best. The story they told, it was just fantastic. So getting into this match, we had Samoa Joe and Daniel Bryan start the match, and in his entrance, when Bryan's coming out, the ref tell Rowan he isn't allowed ringside, so they throw him out immediately, so we don't get any of those shenanigans. And we have Joe and Bryan working very, very stiff. At the end of this match, Bryan's chest is all just red, and he's been slapped to death by Joe. In these early stages, they just go around, they start chopping each other in the chest, they just kicking each other. You can hear it. They're so brutal, such a physical interaction between those two. It was awesome. They just start giving it to each other, start working hard. They just kicking the hell out of each other, chopping the hell out of each other's chest. Joe looks good, Bryan looks good, and it was they're both heels, and usually a heel on heel dynamic doesn't work as well, but I think they pulled it off very well for this opening part. It was just two big, Joe's the big dude, but two bad dudes just going at it and hitting each other as hard as they could, which was pretty cool. And we had the babyface come out next. It's so funny how in the span of a week, WWE has created the next big babyface in the company. We had Kofi Kingston go from he's the New Day guy. Now he's the babyface in the company. He was so over tonight. The crowd, they wanted Kofi to win more than anything. You could feel it. This match was booked like that, and Kofi just did his part so well. So anyways, he comes in, he starts going after Bryan and everything, Kofi chants throughout the arena. At one point, while Joe and Kofi are giving it to each other, Daniel just decides to take a quick breather. He goes on top of the pod, and he just sits there and lays there for a while until Kofi runs at the turnbuckle. He jumps up on the pod. He starts giving it to Bryan. They start fighting each other. They climb the side. They start climbing the side, since they have those they have support beams, I guess, on the side, so you can grab onto the fence and walk on the side now. So Bryan starts trying to get away. Kofi follows. Joe starts coming up. He starts climbing up the side. He pulls down Bryan. Tries to pull down Kofi. Kofi kicks him down, and then Kofi hits his trust fall dive that he does, where he just throws himself. He just throws himself without a care in the world. He hits that on Daniel and Joe. On Joe, and they get up. Joe just keeps chopping Daniel Bryan. He just keeps. Bryan's chest was so red, and it was like hamburger meat, Joe just laid it in on him super hard. He starts chopping him. AJ Styles comes out. He's the next entrant in the match. Daniel Bryan at one point, he's climbing the side of so first AJ comes in, starts giving it to anyone, starts going after Joe, their feud, goes after Bryan from their feud, goes after Kofi, and one point Bryan's climbing the side of the cage, so he's trying to avoid everyone like he always does. And AJ sees this. He gets on the top rope. He goes for a springboard, phenomenal forearm onto Bryan. He knocks him off the side of the cage. I thought it was a really cool spot. And then in the ring we have Joe. Joe's trying to choke out Kofi. He goes for the coquina clutch. They redid the spot in the gauntlet match. How Kofi eliminated Joe. He has him in the clutch. He goes for the top turnbuckle. He kicks off. Goes for the jackknife cover. Joe, of course, he's done this before. He kicks out. Keeps the hold in. Kofi sits like a sit down. So sits down. Joe breaks the hold. He pops up and like flawlessly out of nowhere, out of shot. AJ just hits the phenomenal forearm out of nowhere. 1, 2, 3. AJ pins Joe, and Joe. It's unfortunate. Joe is such a good talent, and he brings so much to the match, but he just keeps getting beaten and beaten and beaten. And Joe's just so good that he's so good that sometimes that just doesn't affect him. But at one point, he's lost so many times to AJ. He's lost so many times in title matches. He has yet to win a title. It's 2 or 3 years that he's been on the main roster. He's yet to win a title, which it is what it is. But Joe's the first eliminated, and next we have Jeff Hardy come out. Jeff, who of course he was next to come out because Randy won the gauntlet match, so he was gonna be the last entrant in the match. So Jeff comes out, starts doing his stuff, starts giving it to everyone, and I was just wondering, I was just waiting. I was like, okay, we're in an elimination chamber match. What's Jeff gonna do? Swanton from the top of the pod or onto someone. He's gonna miss, because in interviews and stuff, Jeff said he doesn't care anymore. He just lays it in that swanton. He just lets his whole body just fall on the dude. So is he gonna go from the top of the pod and just fall 15 feet or however high that is onto another guy? Who's gonna take that? Is someone gonna get out of the way? So I was just curious what's gonna happen. What Jeff does is he sets up AJ. He lays him across the top ropes. He lays him across that face down, so his back's up. Jeff climbs up to the top of the pod. He hits a swanton bomb onto AJ while AJ is just hung there. He hits a swanton off that. So Jeff lands, and when he rolls up to get up, out of nowhere, Daniel just hits his running knee, and he lays him out, and he pins him for 1, 2, 3. I thought that was such a good sequence. It was such good timing from Daniel too. It was so perfect. And then Daniel, of course, taking any opportunity he could. He saw the opportunity. Jeff just hit the swanton from the top of the pod. He's a little bit weakened right there. Daniel went in for the kill. He went for the running knee. Took him out. 1, 2, 3. There goes Jeff Hardy from the match. And then they have a Tower of Doom spot. And similar to the last match, they have a Tower of Doom spot so everyone's laid out for the next person to come in, which was Randy Orton. Randy Orton comes in. He does Randy Orton things, whatever Randy Orton does. Randy, he is the best average wrestler in the world, honestly. There's not much spectacular about Randy Orton, but he's just so good that he just feels like such a big deal. You watch him and you look at the moves he does. There's nothing special about him, but I don't know, just the way his manners and the way he carries himself. He has such a I don't care attitude, and then I don't know, he's just so flawless in the ring too. He doesn't go for any big high moves or anything, but every single move he does, he just does it so well. There's a part where Randy's gonna do something on AJ, and then Daniel I couldn't even see it in shot. He just comes, he tries to flank. He goes tries to flank Randy. Randy just perfectly turns around, catches him into this power slam. It was with such perfect timing, honestly. Randy was just so good. So Randy hits that power slam, and while he's doing that, AJ is gonna go for the forearm to try to hit Randy with Kofi. He had Kofi set up for the phenomenal forearm. AJ goes up for it. Randy he jumps up onto the top rope to obviously jump off it, and when he lands on the top rope, Randy just comes in and grabs his head, hits an RKO off the top, and he pins him for the 1, 2, 3. And commentary made a point to say, oh, this is the second time Randy's pinned AJ in a week. This is the second time Randy's hit an RKO on AJ, and he's pinned him. So reportedly, I think that's gonna be the Mania match. AJ and Randy. I don't see them going for the title, especially after what happened here. I don't see them going for the title. So it makes sense for them to be in this to have a match with each other. They haven't wrestled before except that one like match in 2017 in the SmackDown on the lead up to Mania, which was a really good match. It was a really good match, and they left a lot to be desired. They did that really cool spot where AJ went for the forearm, where he goes for the forearm, he jumps off the top, and Randy goes for the RKO, but AJ knows he's gonna do it, so he just doesn't bounce off the rope. They did that really cool spot. So I'm excited for them to have a match. It's a big profile match, two big names. And it should be good. So that's where I think they're heading with this. So then we have Kofi. Kofi pins Randy. He takes him out, hits him with the Trouble in Paradise. Eliminates Randy. I was kind of hoping he was gonna yell at him, "You stupid," because Kofi was supposed to get or he was in the middle of a push, like a decade ago now. But of course, reportedly Randy backstage, I guess Kofi rubbed him the wrong way or something. Randy didn't like him that much, so he kind of derailed his push. So it's kind of cool seeing 10 years later we have Kofi pinning Randy Orton, and this is possibly Kofi's biggest match he's ever had. The performance he put in this match is so good. So anyways, Kofi pins Randy. We're now at the final two, Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan. And well, holy hell, the match these two have in the chamber, it's the best ending to a chamber match easily by far. The match these two had, and it was a perfect encapsulation of professional wrestling. There was no outside interference. There was no gimmick. There was no convoluted storyline or something. It was the heel Daniel Bryan versus the babyface Kofi Kingston, and the way they played their parts was just so good. The way they played the crowd was so energetic for this final part. They wanted Kofi to win so bad. And Kofi, the way his mannerisms, he felt so desperate. This was his chance. This was his opportunity. He yelled, 11 years I've been waiting for this. This was his chance for him to finally get the big one. And just the way he sold, he's selling so good. And Daniel too. Daniel sold for him so well. They sold the the feeling of the match. They created such an atmosphere, especially with the crowd. It was just so perfect. It was just a really good babyface versus a really good heel. And they had awesome wrestling too. They're going over, working each other pretty stiff too. There's a part where they did the yay boo spot, but with kicks, and they're just kicking the hell out of each other. They're going pretty stiff. There's an awesome near fall. I think Daniel's doing the yes kicks, or the no kicks, I guess they are now. He's doing that. Of course, Kofi ducks the last one, and he hits the SOS, which is what he used to pin Jeff in the Gauntlet match on SmackDown. He hits that. He goes for the pin. It was such a good near fall. He hits the two. They have such a good exchange. They go to the top, and this was honestly probably the scariest part of the match. They're at the top, and Kofi attempts a suplex from the top of the pod to the outside. And the ref was in a position where, like, if they did it, they might have hit the ref. So I was pretty confident they weren't gonna go for it, but I thought if they went through with that was gonna be such a terrifying spot. Honestly, I was hoping they didn't do it. It was just so scary. Daniel reversed Kofi, and then he turns him around, and he goes for he tries to suplex Kofi off the top, and he just at the end he just grabs Kofi and just slams him into the glass, and just starts slamming him, and then they make their way down, and they're on the outside, and Kofi is just, the way he sold the spot, he just grabs Daniel, and he just grabs him, and he just throws him into the side of the cage. And I thought the commentators, they were putting this over well. This is his time. This is Kofi's moment. Kofi's doing everything he can. He felt like such a desperate man, just trying to win, which is, this is what wrestling is. He's trying to win. He's trying to win the big one. So he's just throwing Daniel. And Daniel's selling it perfectly. Daniel's like throwing himself hard into the cage. It was brutal. And then Kofi grabs him like in a bulldog position, and he goes for a bulldog. He runs. Daniel grabs him, throws him into the glass, which that glass made such a loud noise. not as brutal as that old like plastic they used for the old chambers, but it just makes such a satisfying noise when you hear people like get slammed up against it and stuff. So he does that, and that's when the momentum shift starts. They get in the ring, and Daniel hits the running knee, and of course Kofi sells it so good. He does like a full-on backflip for it, and at this moment, I thought this was it. The crowd felt it too. Like, oh, Daniel, he hit the running knee. It's like one of the most protected finishers in WWE. He hit it, and he pins Kofi. Kofi's not near the ropes or anything, so we're like, oh, it's over. And he pins him 1, 2, and then Kofi kicks out. He kicks out of the running knee, and at that point, I thought Kofi fully convinced me. I thought he was gonna win, especially when later on, Daniel goes for it again. He goes for those running knees in the corner. He sets him up in the corner. He hits running knee after running knee after running knee. Kofi intercepts him in that last one. He jumps on his chest. He slams him on the ground. He goes for the pin. He goes for a Trouble in Paradise, and he hits the Trouble in Paradise on Daniel, and that was such a good near fall. Honestly, if you haven't seen the match, you really need to go watch it, because it was those last few minutes, those last 10 minutes were so good. It was such electric in the arena. You could feel the crowd with every single move Kofi hit, with every single time he went for that pin. They just exploded. It was so cool seeing Kofi get this spot. Kofi hit that Trouble in Paradise. Everyone exploded. He had me convinced. I thought it was going to be it. He went for 1, 2, and Daniel kicked out. And I was like, no. I was like, okay, they've kicked out of each other's finisher. And then I got worried. I was like, Daniel's going to win. And they played it so well. And the commentary, too. There was such good commentary during the match. They sold it like how it was. This was a big moment. It was a big match. This was Kofi's chance. And Daniel, who had been there for the beginning, He's fighting desperately. He gets Kofi in the label lock, but of course it's no DQ. He puts his hands over Kofi's eyes and his face, and he starts just pulling out his face and his mouth. And he has Kofi in the label lock for a bit, and Kofi, he manages to reach to the ropes, which I don't mind that much. This is a no DQ match. That rope break shouldn't really mean anything. It shouldn't matter. But I don't mind it that much because of the drama it had, seeing Kofi. He was fingertips away. He clips it, and Daniel pulls him back a little bit, and then Kofi just inches a little bit more further until he finally grabs that rope. He breaks the hold, and at this point, I wasn't really sure who was going to win. I was like, oh, this is just, they've hit each other with everything they've got. What else are they going to do? I was like, okay, next finisher wins. Kofi goes for another Trouble in Paradise. He misses. Daniel counters, and then they try going to the top again, and Kofi knocks Daniel Bryan off. They're on the top, and Kofi's on top of the pod, and he kicks Daniel down. So Daniel lands on the floor. Kofi up top. He stands up top. He goes for a huge splash off the top of the pod. Goes for the huge splash. Daniel Bryan rolls out of the way. Kofi hits nothing. Smack. Lands on the mat. Gets up. Daniel Bryan runs. Hits the running knee. And he pins Kofi for the 1, 2, 3. And this was such an awesome match. Just what they did with it made Kofi into such a star. And now I really want to see this match at Mania. I don't see any other option they have. They have a perfect group too. The New Day versus Daniel Bryan's Planet dudes. If they bring in Luke Harper, which I assume they will, I think he's injured. And those two groups just have such perfect chemistry. They're perfect foils. New Day is all about merchandise and consumerism. Which is what Daniel Bryan hates. So, and Kofi's just such a good wrestler. He's such a good babyface. And this match, this last part, just between them, was just so good. It was Mania. It was Mania worthy. There's no other match that's possible now. After seeing this match, there's no possible opponent Daniel can have besides Kofi Kingston at Mania. So that's something I'm really excited for. I hope that's what we get, and I hope that Kofi wins the title. Cause Kofi deserves it. New Day can win as a faction. You can have all their names in there, but Kofi more than anyone, he's such an underrated talent, and he's such a good wrestler, and the crowd, they're so behind him now. He's such a good babyface, and I'm kind of hesitant on if he's gonna win because I'm sure we're gonna have two big feel good moments already at Mania with Seth. Is probably gonna beat Brock, and Becky's gonna beat Charlotte and Ronda. Which, speaking of, I didn't go over the Raw Women's match because it wasn't a match really. Ruby just got demolished in a few seconds by Ronda, and of course because Charlotte was on the outside, she comes in the ring and she squares off with Ronda. Before I go into this, poor Ruby. Ruby was just made to look like a loser. She deserves better than that. The entire women's division besides E3 have been pretty much demolished. Asuka hasn't been shown on TV like since the Rumble. It's kind of, it's just sad. As great as the story is, which I think it's like the best story in the company right now, and it's gonna main event WrestleMania. As big as it is, it's killing everything else. Which it is what it is. It just sucks. But anyways, as they're squaring off in the ring, Ronda and Charlotte are. Not Bailey. Becky comes out from the crowd. How she's suspended. She comes out in crutches because her knee's injured. She comes out in crutches, comes in the middle of the ring, grabs one of the crutches, throws it down, grabs the other crutch, goes after Charlotte. It's fakes the injury. Goes after Charlotte, beats the hell out of her, gives the other crutch to Ronda, tells Ronda, "Oh, get Charlotte too." Ronda goes for it, and when she turns her back, Becky just beats the hell out of her too. And Becky's just there beating the crap out of both of them. Security comes down. They don't do nothing. Becky just keeps laying, and she lays it in hard. At the end of the segment, you can see Ronda has a huge gash on the side of her head. It's like bleeding. It's like her hair's just like dyed red. Just Becky just beat the hell out of her. Could have given her a concussion. I think she might have actually seriously injured her. She beat the hell out of her so hard. She was laying it in with those crutch shots. But anyways, I think this is a pretty effective segment setting up this match at Mania, which, of course, like I said, is probably going to be the main event, and it's probably going to be a great match. There's a good storyline, pretty good story we have going with Becky, the ultimate face, Ronda, the ultimate the ultimate champion. She's like kayfabe, the strongest of them there, and Charlotte, the corporate heel, the ultimate heel. So it should be a pretty good match at Mania. It's gonna be a good match at Mania. It's gonna main event. It's gonna be an awesome moment. Hopefully Becky wins. If she doesn't, well, there's gonna be a riot, of course. Imagine if Daniel didn't win at WrestleMania 30. This is like that same scenario. It's a triple threat. No one wants to see Becky or no one wants to see Charlotte or Ronda win. Ronda win, just like they didn't want to see Randy or Batista win. So it's similar saying that Becky's the only one that can go over, and of course she is because this company isn't that stupid. So they're gonna have that match at Mania. It's gonna be awesome. Becky. The only thing is, I wonder who's Becky gonna beat. Is Becky gonna tap out Charlotte or Ronda? She can do either one. Honestly, either one works. She taps out Ronda. Well, that's her original feud. That's her original enemy. And then if she taps out Charlotte, it leaves that Ronda one-on-one match open. Ronda still has that claim. You've never beaten me one-on-one. You've never beaten me. Which could be pretty cool, It could set up a match later if Ronda doesn't leave. Or even if she does. Or it can just lead more into that horsewoman versus horsewoman match. Speaking of which, horsewoman versus horsewoman match, Bailey and Sasha are tag champions. Bailey's gonna be Raw Women's Champion probably at the end of Mania, which that just leaves Charlotte. Charlotte's the heel in the company right now, corporate heel. I wonder if she's gonna have like a Rock thing. She's gonna become a face over time. She's gonna align herself back with the 4 Horsewomen. And Ronda turns heel maybe Vince turns on Charlotte and he chooses Ronda instead or something like that. Because it's pretty funny. We have 3 of the WWE 4 Horsemen are faces, and Charlotte's the heel. Meanwhile, the MMA ones, there's 3 heels, and then Ronda's the face. So they need to swap their alliances, and so you can have a full face versus full heel team, which it could be interesting, a Survivor Series or Mania match or whatever it ends up being. But anyways, overall thoughts. That was honestly, there's a lot of things you could have cut out. I think the Braun and Baron stuff was just a waste of time. It shouldn't be on the show. Besides that, the show went pretty fast. So, it was overall it was a pretty good show. A lot of good. Didn't have a lot of noticeable, like fantastic wrestling besides the main event. But it had a lot of moments. There was 2 title changes with Finn winning the IC championship and the Usos winning the tag championships, SmackDown tag titles, and then we had Bayley and Sasha become the inaugural women's tag team champions. And we had Kofi do his thing. It's just a big moment it was a big moment type of night, and did a pretty good job of setting up Mania. And then that Elimination Chamber match was such a good match. It was so fantastic. The ending sequence with Daniel and Kofi was just, it's the best Elimination Chamber match I've ever seen. It was so good. Those two, the chemistry they just have is fantastic. And I hope they top themselves at Mania, because that's how positive I am. That's going to be the match. They're going to face each other at Mania. And I hope they top this, because if they do, wow, it's going to be fantastic. Anyways, guys, that's been the podcast. If you like this podcast, go ahead and subscribe. Hit that like button. Share this video. Try to help me grow this channel. And of course, right there, as you can see on the screen, on the bottom right, that's my Twitter handle. If you want, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I talk a lot of wrestling, a lot of anime, like Dragon Ball and stuff. So a lot of nerd things. Video games. Just pretty much a big nerd. How we all are. But if you want to go and follow me on there and just like talk and stuff, I like talking to people. That's why I have this podcast. To talk to other people. It's pretty cool to reach out to other people. But anyways, guys, if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe, share the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Goodbye.